Welcome to our latest episode of the Lebanese Physicians Podcast. And today we don't have a Lebanese physician, we have a runner. And we will be discussing Rahul Nandi's journey from beginner to Boston and beyond. So, as everybody knows, running a marathon takes a lot of work. And Rahul Nandi is our guest today. He's a runner whose journey is a powerful reminder that remarkable progress doesn't happen overnight. It happens through consistency, patience, and a willingness to keep showing up. Welcome, Rahul, to the podcast.
Hey, welcome Khalil to you, your Lebanese listeners to Lebanon, and to all the listeners on the internet. I'm Rahul. I'm going to be 50 this year and still running strong. So,
Good.
yeah, that's me. I love running marathons, maybe over 50 marathons now.
Wow, man, that's much better than me, but I still have a year to catch up to you, I guess. So,
Yeah.
you,
And we do share the same birthday, exactly the same birthday. So,
exactly. So, Rahul, you started running back in 2009, but before that, were you an athlete, or because I know you grew up in India, or did you because I know sometimes your parents could tell you, oh, go study, don't run, don't do this. So, were you an athlete before or not?
not at all. My mom said early on that if you're not a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer, you won't get married. And it was too hot to run in India, that it would get too dark. And basically, running was not a thing in the 80s. So I never ran. I just did my math homework and just tried to do well in school.
Were you good at math?
Not really.
So
So, but I'm good at running now, so if it helps.
that's good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe that was my passion all along. I should have been try my hand on running,
You
you
discovered
know.
that later on. So what
Right.
inspired you? What inspired you to start running back in 2009? What made you say, all right, I'm going to get off the couch and I'm going to start running?
Yeah, so running a marathon was my wife actually really inspired me because she had run a marathon much before I did in I think 2002. So when we were dating, she used to say, "Look, I've run a marathon. Here's my picture," and I would say, "Wow, 26.2 miles or for 42.195 kilometers. That's I can't even imagine how long that is." So that was pretty impressive. That was my part of my dating. Wow. I told my mom when I was getting married to her that look, she has these skills. So
Yeah, and your mom was like, is she good at math?
yeah, no, she did ask me. But that was one of the inspirations. And the second inspiration was actually it was I lost a bet. No, I made a bet actually sitting at this nice fancy Italian restaurant with another guy who was from the army, and he said to me because I was a little overweight at that time, and he says, Rahul, I can tell you that you'll never run a marathon. Look at you. So I said, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong.
And I guess you proved him very wrong at this point. So, so basically, what was your first race? Like, what was your first race that you chose to do, and what was your first marathon?
My first race was in Calcutta. Now, I know that you probably don't even know Calcutta, but Calcutta is this city on the northeast part of India, is one of the most populated cities. And when I ran the marathon in 2009, the registration was exactly $1. And when I went to register, they were so happy I was running the marathon. There were only about 100 participants, and my finish time was 4 hours 20 minutes. I was During that race, I was chased by beggars. There was no water stops, nothing. So
And you finished it, right? And you were telling me beforehand that they were on the verge of putting you on in a pickup truck and taxing
yes,
you over,
yes.
and you're like, I want to finish.
So these were early days of organized running in India. So what would happen is that if you had the gold, silver, bronze medalist, decided in a race, the first three, then they said, okay, the race is over, we can shut it down. So, and then they send a bus to pick up all the other runners because they have to go home. They only paid for 3 hours.
That is funny. Imagine that happens right now. You're running the New York Marathon, and then the first three finish in 2 hours, and everybody else goes home.
Goes home, has to go home.
Right. So what were your initial goals? People have different goals for starting to run. What were your initial goals when you started running?
My initial goal was just to see if I can make it. 26.2 miles and for is really hard. A lot of time on the feet, especially if you run 4 hours, 4.5 hours. That takes a lot of endurance. So just to survive was my initial goal.
Right. So just surviving the race
Surviving.
goal
Yeah.
initially. And over time, so you started running, you kept on running for a while, but slowly I think you were gaining speed. But over the past 5 or 6 years, you've gained a lot of speed. So what changed? What changed and what made you much faster at this point?
Yeah, I think one of the things that changed was I was a lot more disciplined. So now I run 6 days a week. I put in twice the distance that I need to run for a marathon. So if a marathon is 26.2 miles, I usually run 50 miles a week. So the volume and consistency, I think for most newer viewers, I would say that if you want to get better at running, you just have to put in the time and be very consistent. You can't be like running one day 30, 40 miles and the next day, oh, I'm too tired. You got to put in the time. So that was, I would say, the first big change. Would you agree?
I agree. I
From your
think you have to come in, you have to wake up early, and you have to do it. Just go and do it.
Yeah, and so that was the first big. And the second is really being able to, this podcast is a great forum, but leaning on people, like-minded people who could be runners that you meet at the track or getting a coach to have a structured plan, which is how can I run progressively better, which could be faster or whatever your time goal is without getting injured. So for me, that is the main thing is that to have a sport to be enjoyable, you have to make sure that you are injury free and that you really love the sport.
Right. Yeah, getting a good coach, right, is important. And I think for me, the biggest transformation was, like you said, running with other people because it
Yeah,
stimulates you to be
absolutely.
faster and to compete with these people. You know, I'm not
Yeah,
not competitive at all, but
yeah. No, you are very competitive, Khalil. I can vouch for that. But I think what we share also in common is the sense of community that running brings. So I sometimes joke with my wife and my friends who ask me, "Hey, Rahul, you go to bed so early. When do you actually party, or when are you at your best?" And I says, "At 6 a.m. If you want to find me at my best, that's when I socialize."
right, exactly. Some people cannot wake up that early, but that's and there's some books written on that, like the 5 a.m. clubs and stuff like that, about waking up early because you're probably at your best abilities at that point in time due to cortisol levels and all this other stuff. So, do you think so? What role does because this is like other sports and other things in life, I guess. What role does consistency play, as we discussed, versus natural talent and ability?
I would say for me, like as I said, growing up, I didn't do any running. I also th don't think that I'm naturally gifted because,
No, you're
uh,
not.
that I'm not. I know. I'm a short guy. I'm not. If you look at me, I don't even look like a runner. I'm going to be 50 this year, but I think consistency and just a good positive mindset, right? So we don't often talk about, we only talk about the physical aspect. One thing that over the period of 5 years that has drastically changed for me is having a good positive mindset. Our failures have actually helped me to lean in and improve. So as a athlete or as a recreational runner, you know that you not every race or every day will be the best day. Sometimes you have failures, but
Right.
it's how you deal with that is really important.
Right. Yeah, as in everything, I think even if you talk to some of the professional tennis players or everybody else, they tell you it is the number of hours that you put in. Some people have more natural abilities than others. They may need slightly less hours, but the number of hours that you put in is an important thing in terms of improving your speed and ability to run and race. So what does a typical training week look like for you today?
Yeah, it's a typical training week. I follow this whole principle that no 2 days without running. So I run 6 days a week. Mondays I take off. I actually get my body to rest. I do two workouts, which I call quality workouts, which is really the intention of quality workouts is to show up. And I'll explain what that is in a little bit. But the rest of the days, I like to run slowly and just have fun with my community of friends. So that's very important. You got to have a lot of slow runs in between these quality workouts, which are high intense workouts. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. That was my next one for you is how important are like long, slow runs versus speed work?
Very important. I think if you ask me what is the hardest thing in running is to learning how to run slowly. And if you can't run slowly, because when you run slowly after a hard workout, that is when your muscles recover. That is when you actually get stronger. And it also is, think of it as a life insurance against injury, right? You can't run fast all the time because your body will break down, right?
Right.
So if you can't do it yourself, run with friends where you can have a conversation with them in the morning, and that will make you feel better and you will also slow down.
And when you run, what metrics do you pay attention? Because now there's a lot of people wear smartwatches, Garmin's, Apple Watches, whatever, all the stuff to monitor things for them. What do you think? What are the metrics that you pay the most attention to? Is it heart rate? Is it pace? Is it power? Is it VO2 max? Or is it something else?
For me personally, growing up in India, I didn't have all these gadgets, and I still find it really hard to monitor all these gadgets. I have a Garmin watch, but I follow some basic principles. Have I had a good night's sleep? And you'll immediately know if you've not had good night's sleep. That's a big, big factor of helping you to run well. And I can tell when my heart rate is high. It's just something that you'll know because if you do speed work, you feel your heart rate is elevated. I don't have anything to track it. So if I feel out of breath, I slow down. So think of, hey, I'm out of breath. Whoa, my heart rate is going fast. And you can feel it when you put your hand against your chest. And those are the kind of very basic measures that I take.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's how we used to run in the past without any gadgets, and probably I ran my fastest races without gadgets, to tell you the truth. But you're right. It's more like it's the amount of sleep you've had, maybe the amount of food you ate. Like the we'll talk about nutrition in a bit, I guess, also because that's an important part of the race. So, but a lot of us we are in a running community, and we always hear we get injured and stuff like that. So, what injuries or obstacles have you encountered, and how do you balance your training hard while trying to stay healthy at the same time?
Yeah, so I think that's a two-part question. So one of the things that has helped me to get faster and be injury-free is cross training. So what I like to do and there's always runners find it hard to go to the gym or do any kind of cross training because all if you love running, you always want to run, right? So but what I do is I go to the gym and they do a class. It's a gym class with other people. It's not Zumba, but it's something called body pump, where you do low weights, high reps, and it gives the body full exercise. I do it twice a week. So if you ask me how much gym sessions should you do a week, I would say 2 to 3 times is maximum. You can do it as part of a group and work your legs, work your upper body. And remember, when you run, you really need strength so that if you're not strong in your core, you will get injured, right? So yeah, that's the first part. And nutrition is a whole other topic, which I think I'm trying to gain expertise in. But if you want to shave minutes, I think that's a very important aspect.
Exactly, and we'll talk about it in a bit. And so, have you ever, like, in saying that, so you think strength training is very important for injury prevention, right?
Yeah, to strength training is very important for both injury prevention and to get faster. So if you just focus on running, you're just working one part of your body, you know.
And you're losing
So
the muscles of the other parts of your body at the same time. So,
yeah, you might actually not just losing muscle. You runners have this, you burn a lot of calories, but then you consume a lot of calories. So it's essentially you got to balance this out with good overall exercises that work all parts of your body. So it's just not just your legs.
Exactly, exactly. And there's a mental side to running because if you're successful in a marathon, it's not just physical as me and for the most part. So how has your mindset changed over the years for training and running a marathon?
I think that's a whole side that would take a whole podcast. But in short, I'll give you an anecdote. It took me 6 years to qualify for Boston, and it was essentially a mental game. Afterwards, I had the training, and then when I qualified for Boston, and I ran Boston the first time in 2018, and after that, I said, okay, I want to take my time down to sub 3, and then it took me another 5 to 6 years to qualify to get to sub 3, even though I was physically there in a period of 3 years. So mental condition is massive in any sports, and it becomes even more critical if you are at an elite level, because often you'll see your body can do it, but your mind is telling you that you can't.
Right. So what do you tell yourself in the toughest miles of the marathon?
A couple of things really. I try to dissociate pain from my mind. So if I'm running, especially they always say a marathon has two parts to it. One is 20 miles, and then the last is the 10 kilometers. So people say that the real race is how you run the last 10K, right? And when they say it, it means that how do you process your mind? And the way I do it right now is even when I'm in a lot of pain, I try to smile, right? So you trick your mind and say that, okay, I'm going to just bear with this pain. That's the first thing I do. And the second thing, if I'm getting too overwhelmed, I stop for a couple of seconds to really regroup and then run again. So there are a couple of things that you can do. I think you got to try it out and really have that mindset that you can overcome this, and it's not going to be permanent gain.
Have you ever quit in the middle of a race? Or if
I
not,
had
what kept you going?
Khalil, you know me, we call it the curb sandwich. I haven't quit, but I don't remember the end of the race. So I have I remember the curb. So which is and so we call it the curb sandwich, where I've seen the race from the road, and I couldn't go on. So I've actually then got up and tried to finish the race. So I'm saying that I didn't quit, but I didn't have the best race, and I ended up in a medical tent. So
Yep.
I don't recommend that.
Yeah, I've done that too, but I didn't end up. I refused to go to a medical tent, but I should have gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And we all know that as runners, if you run 3.5 hours or 3 hours, you don't want to end up in a medical tent. And if you do, you still don't want to quit.
and next is the important part of the mental part is the nutrition part, and that's a very important part. So, how has the nutritional recommendations evolved over the years? Like, what do you eat 2, 3, 4, 5 days before the marathon? What do you eat the morning of the marathon?
So when I started off this journey, I used to drink beer before the race because I didn't know any better. And now, because I thought, oh, this is carbohydrates, so I used to drink a glass of beer the night before because I used to feel good and I used to be less stressed. And that's old thinking. Of course, now, you know, I'm a lot more conscious. So I think there's a concept of something called race weight. So you really have to be very careful going into the last training block, the last couple of months of marathon, is reducing any kind of alcohol, just having good carbs, and especially the last week when when you're about to race, you want to be very conscious about what you put in your body. And when I say good carbs, it's things like brown bread, brown rice, sweet potatoes, etc. So things that don't upset your stomach and have you've eaten before, right? So
Right, and then I think the morning of the race is like to same thing as you said, and
yeah, no spicy kebabs.
no spicy kebabs, right? And no ice cream and stuff like that. It's
No, no ice creams. Yes.
right. And what do you take? What do you eat during the race? Is it how often do you take gels and stuff like that when you're running?
So, so when I run for speed, I take gels. So normally I calculated that I need about 60 to 90 carbs per hour. So I take about 2 to 3 gels an hour. So I take a gel every 20 to 25 minutes. So, and it depends on people to people, but I would say that 2 gels an hour during a race is important. And you should only do it if you've trained with gels. That's
Right.
also very important. You have to train your gut to basically withstand so many gels. So on an average in a race, I take about 7 to 8 gels.
Yeah, because you don't want to get nauseated while
Yeah.
taking the gels
Yeah.
before you run. So, what's your advice to everyday runners? If someone started running today, what would you tell them?
Don't quit. Show up. So you might not have the best one good running day, doesn't matter. Put it aside and just start showing up every day or every 2 days. Make it a routine. Build a routine, make it part of your lifestyle. Running will help you have a great lifestyle and will, especially as you grow older, will just give you this positive mindset
So, what is the biggest misconception recreation runners have about getting faster?
that they need to run fast all the time. So that they need to, and I think that's where people don't enjoy running because they have poor early experiences because they've started training for a marathon and they've got injured and they say I don't want to run it. I had a bad injury, and then so the idea is that you have to walk before you can run. So if you are a recreational runner, take baby steps. Do maybe start 15 miles a week, run slowly, build your base, build your foundation.
Right, building the base is very important. A lot of people make this mistake and get injured very early on, then quit afterwards. What is one piece of advice that accelerated your own progress?
Get help. So get a coach because you're not going to know everything and you don't want to get injured, especially as you start getting faster. So either get help from a friend. There are a lot of plans on the internet. I have to say that be careful, right? Before using any of the plans, most of these AI plans are not tailored towards you. So instead, what I would say is talk to a couple of friends who've done this before and create a plan which is based on collective input. Or if you come up with a plan, show it to a friend and just monitor that progress of the plan.
If you could go back and talk to yourself 5 to 8 years ago, what would you say?
What would I say? I would say that why weren't carbon shoes around then? I could have run faster.
Adidas shoes, actually.
Adidas, why? Maybe well, 8 years ago or 10 years ago, I couldn't afford carbon shoes, but boy, these shoes are so fast. So there's something, right?
Yeah, so fast, but they don't last very long. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I wish I owned a shoe company because every 2 months I need a new shoe.
what's your favorite marathon?
My favorite marathon will always be Boston because it's just a celebration of the of runners who have worked so hard to get there. And you can see that at the starting line that everybody is excited to be there. So yeah, it's like the United Nation of runners.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, my favorite is London, but you haven't done it, you can't say.
Yeah, hopefully I'll do it.
Yeah. What's your favorite running shoe?
You know, that's a hard question. My favorite running shoe is a carbon shoe that's on sale.
Whichever one, then you don't differentiate, I guess.
No, I don't differentiate. Most of these running shoes are pretty much similar, so you have to see which one fits you better and which one you like. Be careful of shoes that change your posture a lot. So, yeah.
And what's your most memorable race?
My most memorable race will always be my first race in Calcutta, where I got chased by beggars, where there was no finish line, where after the first three runners finished, they took away the all the water stops. So I'll never forget that because if I had given up on that race, I would have never come so far.
Yep, exactly. What is your hardest workout?
My hardest workout is intervals.
Any intervals?
Yeah, any intervals because I think when you run on a track short distances, 400 meters, 800 meters, you really have to concentrate on just form and just it's hard, but the as you go on with time and practice, you get better, and interval training is very good for you.
Exactly, and that gives you more endorphins. Actually, I feel happier on the days I do interval training.
I feel happy after I finish it, so
Exactly. After, not before.
not before
Or during.
or during. Yeah.
What is your biggest running mistake?
My biggest running mistake is to not focus on nutrition, and I would say also starting a race too fast.
Right.
So don't do these two things, especially the nutrition part. So when you run a race, you should pay very important focus to how you feel, and make sure you have enough food in your stomach.
Right, and I've also these have been my biggest mistakes myself too, in the past. What is your favorite post-race meal?
Ooh, my favorite post-race meal is chicken curry, which is my comfort food, chicken curry and rice. So, but I can't have
Or
it with some cold beer actually. So I don't know what it would be in Lebanon. Maybe what would it be in Lebanon?
maybe some shawarma.
Shawarma. Yeah, exactly. That's a shawarma of Indian people. Give me some chicken curry and rice.
So, what is one running book everyone should read?
Oh, Born to Run is a great book because it talks about just how these Mexican runners called Tarumaras are some of the best runners. And there's another book called by Murakami, which is called, it's called What I Think When I Run. And it's about just this gifted author, famous author. It's about his running journey, but what he thinks during his run. And it's a great way for you to relate to when you have so much time, what exactly are you thinking? And you see there's a lot of similarities.
Exactly, exactly. And what is your marathon PR?
Well, my Strava PR, wherever you want to go, my marathon PR is last year actually when I was 48. I'm 49 now, going to be 50, was 2:54, 13 seconds. And the 13 seconds is important actually.
Very important. So, yeah, the issue is people get slower with age, you get faster with age.
I'm getting faster by age,
Yeah.
and hopefully my goal is to break 250, so get under 250, so maybe 249 something.
It's like you're a good bottle of wine, you age well, I guess.
I hope so, but you never know, So, but I'm having fun while doing it, and I think the best thing is the company, the running company.
Next big running goal, I guess, is Chicago, right?
My next big running goal is to run Chicago. Yes, it's a flat race, it's weather dependent, but you know why it's hard? You have to train during the summer.
Right.
So,
And try to beat your 254.13.
yeah, try to beat my 254. Now you're always looking for this next adventure in running. It was first run a marathon, right? That was
Right.
my first goal. The second goal was qualify for Boston. The third goal was running under sub-3. Now I'm bored of that, so I need a new goal. So
Now you're gonna run under sub 250.
under sub 250. And
Yep.
maybe after that I'll retire, but who knows?
See, man, you keep getting faster. I keep getting stuck in the same limbo. What is the biggest lesson running has taught you about life beyond the marathon?
Uh, you can't get results without a plan.
And consistency, I guess.
And yeah, a plan is a plan shows you what is possible and what are the outcomes and what do you need to get there. So, and what you need to get there is consistency, proper nutrition, and you need to put in the time and sacrifice to get there.
Right. Consistency, nutrition, time, most important.
So for those recreational runners, start with a plan.
Right. Rahul, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Khalil, this was fascinating. Thank you.